Greetings, YouTubers. It's your buddy Choppodong. I am coming at you with a different video today. Instead of talking specifically baseball, let's give you a sample of what some of the coaching can provide you inside DFSArmy.com. You know me, I'm lead content editor, senior contributor, coach, whatever you want to call it, inside DFSArmy.com. One-stop shopping for everything daily fantasy sports, MMA, PGA, NFL, NBA. It doesn't matter. We cover it all. We have the experts in place. I talk a lot of bankroll management, contest selection with my guys. I do a lot of NFL, MLB, hockey type content, a little bit of NBA, stuff like that, kind of the main sports. But to be honest with you, bankroll management and contest selection is where I provide the most value to the community, and I don't think enough people in the industry talk about it. So let's kind of dive in today. I got a really good specific couple of questions that I'm going to cover with you from a member that I'm going to bring out here. So let's dive in after you guys remember or take note of the fact that down there in the comments section, dfsarmy.com is the link to join to become a VIP to get this type of coaching. And number two, coupon code CHOP triggers 20% off your regularly stickered price, whatever you want to call it. So consider jumping in today. You've noticed a lot of our content has been locked up this week. We're going to open it back up for Freebie Friday tomorrow. So pay attention to Twitter, pay attention to the website, and jump in here and take advantage, because hopefully you see that the value that this type of coaching provides in the very specific one-on-one type of training where we discuss with you how to make you a better player. So follow me out on Twitter if you want to as well. Love interacting out there. Let's kind of dive in. And I want to show you that AK Tiger here asked a question. We had a couple of questions. This one was led previously by a newer member named Heather, who said that has $50 left for double ups. Should she play one, or should she play five $10 double ups, or what should she do? And I basically said at that level of volume, you need to start considering head to heads again. And I can go into that more in detail if you want to see the conversation with her. Obviously, it's right there in our coaching forums. You need to become a member, so click the link and jump in and go catch up on that. But as far as what AK Tiger said, it kind of piggybacked off of what we were already talking about. So it kind of made me think maybe I just need to give him a video answer, because I would type a novel in trying to explain it through typing text. So let's kind of try that. I don't know how long this video is going to go. I don't want it to take forever, but this is a good set of questions that I think a lot of people out there in the industry need to hear. Joined the Army a few weeks ago. It's been great. Played baseball in the past, but with some other, not with the resource I have with you guys. Obviously, with the tools and the content and the coaching, a lot of people get overwhelmed when they join us. We need to dip in slowly, and we need to kind of don't dive into the deep end head first. Kind of go to the baby end and the zero entry where where your toddlers walk in, and kind of tip your toes in, tip your toe down into the water. Because it can be overwhelming very, very quickly. And that's very, very true. But bankroll content or contest question started playing with a lot of head-to-head double up, 3-man, 5-man, 10-man, 100-man ladder, basic ladders. Did relatively well, would always play a lineup or two in a smaller GPP as well. I noticed the cash lines on my cash games were higher than the GPP line, and my goal was to build the bankroll and play more and larger entry contests where the payout maybe is better. There's a lot to digest in here, so let's pick it apart. Number one, the basic ladders. I will link the ladder strategy to you guys in the comment section down below. It is a very, very sound approach and works very, very well for baseball. A lot of guys are having a lot of success with it. It layers your contests with different portions of the money. You have $100, you put a certain amount here, and a certain amount here, and a certain amount here and here. And as you take more risk, as you take more risk and earn more reward, the ladder starts to pay itself off in multiplier form. Okay, and it's a very stable way to play baseball. If you notice, I track my own results, and I would hope you do the same thing. The last 35 contests or so have been a little up and down, 78%, 96%, 80%, 94%. Got some bad ones in there, got some good ones in there, but got some bad ones in there. Of the 36 contests, 25 of them are in the top half, 14 top third, 20% top is 10 lineups, 3 in the top 10, 3 in the. So I'm a little light on the top end of it. I'm bashing the 50-50s, but I'm a little bit light on the top end of it where the reward of the ladder really kicks in. That'll change over time. I've tracked these for years, but I'm showing my members or students or whatever you want to call them that are coming to me for coaching how to track these contests. You simply take your finishing spot in a contest and divide it by the number of total entries, and you get a percentage. I track 100-man leagues very, very strongly because they're the top of my ladder, and I love those contests. So if I finish 12th, that's a top 12% lineup. If I finish 78th, that's a top 78% lineup. And it's very, very easy for me to track. My point is, if you play 50-50s and you win one outright, you placed first in a 100-man 50-50, that lineup deserved better than $1.80. You need to get that into higher dollar contests, and you need to learn how to do it. That's another thing that we talk about inside DFS Army all the time, layering these contests. As far as putting in a smaller GPP as well, it's very, very simple. Let's say you have a $100 budget per lineup, and the top portion of that, the GPP portion of that, is 10%, and you're going to build 10 $1 GPP lineups. You might take the main lineup and throw it in at $1 just in case it goes off, because your tournament lineups or your cash lineups can go off in tournaments too, especially in baseball. But let's say you built 9 other GPP lineups. That's fine. That's a fine way to do it. Take the GPP portion of the ladder and build separate lineups with it, because they're already all backed by cash in your main lineup, so that works. Or you can do what I do, which is build about 3 or 4 lineups and then just take my $100 budget and slap 25 on all 4 lineups and just run 24 different ladders for 25 bucks each. 2 different ways to do that. Both ways skin a cat, both ways work. Depends on how many lineups you want to build. Now, I don't mind the whole cash versus GPP thing, because honestly, if you did well in a GPP, even if you hit the min cash, you demolished a 50-50. You demolished cash games. You comfortably cashed in those. So put them in both. In baseball, it's so volatile, put them in both. Doesn't really matter. I noticed the cash lines on my cash games were higher than the GPP line. Honestly, that's a little bit of a fluke. Okay? That's a little fluky, especially in baseball. In NBA, it happens quite a bit, but in baseball, it's a little bit fluky. I would expect that if you tracked it over the next couple of weeks to start going back to where you see, okay, so that was a little bit of an outlier. It was a little trend or something like that. And honestly, things are back to normal where the 50-50 line is below the GPP line. But the one thing I will say is, don't necessarily track that min cashing GPP line, because that still doesn't pay you. I can produce a lineup that ranks 45th out of 100 people and get $2 on the dollar in a 50-50 or a double up. But I can also get a GPP only lineup to 18th percent. So out of a 1,000-man GPP, it gets into the top, 180 people, and it still only paid me $2 on the dollar. It did a lot better in terms of strength of the lineup inside the industry, but it didn't pay me any better. So when you're talking about GPPs, you need to get way inside that top 1%. If you see me on some of the videos break down contest numbers and things like that, I'm always looking for a GPP that pays the top 1% of entries 10x. In a 100-man league, on FanDuel anyway, in a 100-man league, it pays 25x. I'd rather get the 25x. That's why those are always in my ladders. But if I want to play a GPP, I've got to get way above that, because 1% only pays 10x at best, usually 6 or 7x. I need to do better than that to make some serious money, because I'm not going to do that. Let's say 7x. That's if I played every day of the week, one lineup every day of the week. That would be 7 contests, and I can cash once a week at 7x and break even. It's not going to happen. I don't know very many people that can cash the top 1% of a GPP once a week. There's longer dry spells than that, so we have to set realistic expectations too. But we're trying to get way into that top 1%, and if you do that and you get way into that top 1%, you also should be in cash games, because you demolished all of those too. You're going to set the bar high, and you're going to fall short of your goal with cash games. That's the essence of the ladder. So again, this is more of an outlier. My goal is to build a bankroll so I can play more and play in larger entry contests where the payout is better. That's very true, and that is an underrated statement across the industry. The higher dollar buy-in tournaments typically have fewer players in them, and that is why they're easier, quote unquote, I'm using air quotes here, easier to win. That's why a lot of people see the big pros in those contests with lower scores and go, well, he makes all the money because he has the money to play in the larger buy-in. You're right, he does. But he also knows that he's not in a 10,000 person GPP where he needs to be contrarian or be a little goofy to win it. He can play pretty close to the vest, play a fairly straightforward lineup, and just sort of take his chances with everybody else because he knows it's not going to take. He can win on a score of 163 where it took 240 to win a bigger GPP. He knows that. So yes, getting into those contests should be a goal because you can win with softer scores. You can win more. You can beat 35 people more often than you can beat 1,000. Okay, that's common sense. It's very, very true, and it doesn't get explained in the industry. People think those guys are just there because they made a lot of money. No, they're there because they know they can win more often. You just have to get the bankroll to get there, and the ladder can help you build that. My bankroll allows me to play 20 to 30 bucks a day adhering to the 10% rule. How do you suggest managing this going forward? Well, I told him in our forums, first off, I would consider 5%, not 10%. Baseball is so ridiculously volatile. A 10% rule only gives you 10 shots at bricking off every slate, and you are broke. And if you had a $100 budget or bankroll, and you were down to your last $10, how the hell can you go all in that night? I'd be freaked out. I am a pretty conservative coach. I want people to keep their bankrolls as long as humanly possible. Yes, 85% of this industry loses. It's documented by DraftKings. Some of us can't hold on to our bankrolls. We're just not ever going to be. We're not going to be in the top 15% of the industry. But I like to think that DFS Army helps get you as close to that as you can get, or get you inside of it if that's where you're destined to be. And my main goal as more of a bankroll coach is to teach you proper bankroll management and discipline, to teach you how to hold on to that money as long as humanly possible. Anti-redeposit, if you will. So I would consider, in a volatile sport like baseball, dropping down to 5%. Or at the very least, adopt a constant reevaluation method where you look every Friday or twice a week or whatever. And my bankroll's 100, and I can play 10% of that, so 10 bucks a day. And on Friday, oh man, I'm up to 130. I can play $13 a day now. It's up to 150. I can play $15 a day now. Oop, had a couple of bad days this week. I look again on Friday and I'm down to 80 bucks. Well, now I can only play $8. If you can adjust that way and be that disciplined, then you can probably play 10%. But if not, play 5. Play 2%. I don't play much of my bankroll in baseball at all because I just am afraid of going bust up. That's how I play. That's how I coach people to play that are struggling with redepositing, because the answer is typically not, oh, I'm on a winning streak, let's double our buy-in, which is what degenerate gamblers do. The disciplined gambler stays the course. The disciplined gambler realizes the dark days are coming as well, and he holds on to his money. Okay, so I would consider dropping to 5%, or use a constant reevaluation process of what's my bankroll today, how much is 10% of that. As it goes up, I increase my play. As it goes down, I decrease my play. Very, very simple. I'm wondering if I should move to more higher entry contests. I don't know. We're 20 to 30 a day at 10% gives me a $200 to $300 bankroll. You're not ready for $20 buy-ins yet. Not yet. Because if you're building ladders, I would stay the course with ladders and keep grinding that bankroll up, especially if they're working. I mean, that's like why if I had a hit TV show, let's say I was How I Met Your Mother, and I'm Neil Patrick Harris, why would I leave after season 3 when I can make a 10-season run and pile a bunch of money in the bank? Why would I leave a bankroll process that's working to change things and get outside my bankroll and then all of a sudden increase my risk of ruin or going bust? I want to build that bankroll before I start entering $10 GPPs and whatever, to where 10% of my bankroll or 10% of my ladder supports it. So 10% would be a $100 ladder. If I can put $100 a day out there, which means I've got a $1,000 bankroll, now we can start talking about that sort of stuff. So it's a little early yet at 20 to 30 bucks a day. In my opinion, I will always encourage everybody to ask other coaches, get other opinions, and then make up your mind for yourself at what makes the most sense for you. You're going to come to me, who's going to be hyper conservative. You're going to go to somebody else who's going to be hyper aggressive, and maybe that's your style. Maybe you don't. Maybe you have a job where you're making $200,000 a year and you don't mind burning $1,000 a month on this hobby. Go for it, man. Don't let me hold you back and tell you to play 20 bucks a day. But there are different coaches for different people, and we need to interact and talk and question these coaches and ask them where their philosophies are and ask them how they typically play and ask them their history and ask them their track records and whatever and go back. I can tell you that I have never officially redeposited. I have redeposited with portions of my bankroll that I've previously withdrawn. I've never officially redeposited because I am a bankroll nit. I manage that thing like crazy because I don't ever want to redeposit. I love being able to say that to people as a bankroll coach that I am not some guy who's paying all of my bills with DFS, with my play, but I've also never redeposited. So yeah, I can help. Okay, but ask different coaches their different opinions and then make up your mind for yourself which makes more sense to you. Obviously, that's again just being thorough in vetting your coaches and vetting your own game, as a matter of fact. So moving to higher entry contests, I would have that as a long-term goal. I wouldn't do that just yet. I've always only played $1 and $2 contests. Seems those are harder to cash than $5 and $10 contests. And you're right, because typically, now there are some $5 contests that have thousands and thousands of people in them. There are some $10 like the Ace or whatever that has quite a few people in it. Now, if you can find the small Ace, get in that. If you want to dabble, take a shot here or there. This isn't all work and no play, but take a shot here and there. Get into the $12 49 man GPP. They don't pay much up top, but they're inherently winnable. And yes, you have the skills to be able to compete with the Sharks in those contests because there's only 48 others or 118 others. You can beat those. That just takes having a good night. That's all. The edge that a Shark has over you is actually very, very small in MLB. Now, an NBA might be a little larger, but the games have really tightened up with algorithms and optimizers and all of these content sites and things. The competition's tough. One of the largest areas to separate yourself is in bankroll management, contest selection, things like ladders, knowing when to play in GPPs, back with cash, stuff like that. That's the stuff that we talk about inside DFS Army that nobody else out there, your lineup seller isn't talking to you about that. He doesn't care. He wants your 20 bucks. We're actually trying to help you become a self-sustained daily fantasy sports player. And we do it through conversations like this. And you can see why, getting up on 20 minutes, you can see why I didn't try to type all of this out. So hopefully, Tiger, you listen to this. Hopefully, Heather, hopefully the other guys that jumped in there and said they were interested in hearing the response get a lot out of this. If you're in public land and you get a lot out of it, I would implore you to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Come inside with the DFS Army link. Use the coupon code CHOP. Get in here for 20% off. Start asking me questions of your own because I cover an area of DFS that nobody else really talks about. So that's where we can help you. And we have all the tools and the content and the coaches and the resources and everything else to help every other aspect of your game. So jump in here. Use Freebie Friday tomorrow to test drive us. Jump in here over the weekend. I don't think you'll go anywhere once you come inside. This is an investment in your own game and your own increased chances of becoming a profitable player. So give us a shot. Give us a shot. Tiger, hopefully that helped you. Thanks for the question. Guys, thanks for being members. Thanks for interacting with me and constantly keeping me growing as a player myself, because only through that can I further help you guys, and then we can all help each other, and that's really what the Army is all about. Take care, guys. Hopefully we talk to you guys here in the next couple of days.